All right. Well, Jim, it was just a couple weeks ago, our last regular Rebel Force Radio podcast, that you brought us some incredible audio history of Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, and Carrie Fisher in the studio, WGN, 1977, their first and only promotional tour as a trio. If you can imagine, going around the country and making stops and promoting this little independent film called Star Wars. And we've had some great feedback. As you know, we talk about the Bad Batch things that are at the forefront, the current Star Wars, but this goes back to the very foundation and its humble beginnings. So great feedback on those highlights that we brought you. The entire segment is available for Patreon members. So you can check that out if you're a Patreon member. The all access tier starts at, I believe, $11.38, appropriately enough. You can check that out. But that wasn't enough. You have some more for us you wanted to bring in addition to those highlights that we shared a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, the feedback was so tremendous. I thought maybe we should shine the spotlight on this incredible find, just found in a random closet at Chicago radio station WGN, and then passed along to me to digitize it. This is a reel-to-reel tape of entertainment reporter Roy Leonard talking to the stars of Star Wars, Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, and Carrie Fisher, when they were on their first ever publicity tour for the film. The date was June 16th, 1977, mere weeks after the release of the original Star Wars film. And people were already excited about it. It had already gripped the nation, soon to grip the world, because remember, Star Wars was released internationally, sort of on a staggered. I mean, it was released nationally kind of on a staggered level, where it opened up in a very small amount of theaters and then just spread like wildfire throughout the country. And then months later, it was released overseas and in international markets, and the rest is history. But this is the very first publicity tour for the original Star Wars. So let's go back to June 16th, 1977. We're going to tune our radio dials to 720 AM WGN, and we are going to listen to the Roy Leonard Show as he takes listeners' calls asking. These are, obviously very new Star Wars fans because Star Wars itself was very new.
This is the coolest part, the fact that they're taking listener calls. It's just amazing.
Right. And so we have somebody on the line who has several questions about Darth Vader. Let's hit the switchboard.
I've got 3 questions about Darth Vader, about the bad guy.
Sure.
Okay. Who played him?
David Prowse.
Oh, good, I'm right. Okay, and why did he breathe so funny? Did he have asthma or something?
What?
Why did he breathe so funny?
Oh.
He's wearing a face mask.
A breath mask.
He has it's sort of a portable iron lung. He can breathe in any atmosphere, and there was also a rumor that his face was disfigured in the Clone Wars. George has set up this whole history of the galaxy. So many of the facts that are in the script were, not in the film for pace, for whatever reason, but we all know our histories, and that's the interesting part about it. There's so much room for for what? I'm sorry. I just switched to hyperspace. I apologize.
Okay, Renee?
Yeah.
And let's see, that was 2 questions. Did you have another one?
Yeah, I was wondering. Okay, on the special effects, were most of those animated?
A lot of them were animated. A lot of them are miniature models that are. There was a special computer system developed to manipulate the camera platform and the model at the same time. So those were all photographed frame by frame.
I was wondering, and I hope this doesn't spoil the fun of watching the movie, but in the scene when the 3 of you, along with Chewbacca, are escaping, and you have the dogfight where you shoot down the 4 interceptors. Now, could you see what you were doing, or is that all put in afterwards?
No, it was all put in afterwards.
Yeah.
It was a blue screen. I mean, George would say, "Okay, now look over your right shoulder. They're coming down," and you'd pretend just the way you pretended when you played Cowboys and Indians. But to see it on the screen is just a thrill for all of us.
Can you imagine Renee making money for playing Cowboys and Indians?
I'd love to. I'd love to.
That's great, Renee, with the question about Darth Vader and then the special effects. I think that it would be, Jim, do you think it might be reasonable to give Charlie Lippincott some of the credit for the incredible PR training that must have gone in to now, and I don't mean this to disparage Carrie and Mark and Harrison, but I'm just shocked at how able they are to answer these questions, their ability to immediately recall. I mean, the fact that Harrison detailed the essentially the Dykes reflex, which he's referring to there. That's with the ability to take these models and make them move on screen. Charlie Lippincott deserves a lot of credit, and certainly the way he prepped these actors to go out and do this publicity tour.
Jason, I don't think it's so much of anybody prepping Mark, Harrison, and Carrie. It's they lived through it. This was fresh history for them.
But did they live through what was going on at ILM? That's what's shocking to me. So that story must have been being told to them somehow, or maybe they came out and visited. I really don't know, but it just
Harrison has always had a natural curiosity for the mechanics of things.
Not surprising.
And he leaves no stone unturned if he's working on a project. And here you're catching him in the moment.
Sure.
If you talk to Harrison 2024 about Star Wars, he might be, I don't know, whatever, whatever you want to do. Huh? But here he's in the moment. He's experiencing his own history in real time, along with Mark, how great was it to hear Mark name check the Clone Wars?
Right.
In that just random conversation.
Yeah, there's this story that he's disfigured because of the Clone Wars and all of that. So
disfigured. I mean, there was never anything in the film that came up that indicated Darth Vader was an actual man. It was quite possible he was a droid.
Yeah.
To film goers of 1977.
Did you think he was a robot or a robot, as people back then called it?
No, we called them droids back then.
Okay.
There was always that kid on the playground who had an older brother who knew everything.
Oh.
And the older brother had revealed to us a lot of information about Darth Vader, especially the fight on a volcano with Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the fact that he is a man underneath that helmet, completely disfigured.
So the novelization, the George Lucas novelization that was, of course, ghostwritten by, his name flew out of my head. Alan Dean Foster, sort of reveals that he is a man underneath that costume.
Does it? Is there a
well, they refer to the fight on the volcano. That is in the novelization. Yes.
In the novelization, I don't think so. I do not think so. The first reveal to us as fans about Darth Vader's backstory, suffering his wounds as a result of a saber duel with Obi-Wan Kenobi on a volcano, as it was, placed. So there was no Mustafar, there was no lava planet. It was a volcano. And the word was that Obi-Wan had overcome Darth Vader and kicked him into the volcano. And when Vader emerged, he needed the cybernetics to survive. That first appeared in a George Lucas interview with Rolling Stone magazine late in the summer, 77.
Did it creep into did it creep into the Return of the Jedi novelization?
Oh, quite possibly, yes.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Now I think you're on the right track.
Yeah.
That novelization written by James Caan, who's from Chicago, and who we got to meet at Star Wars Celebration 2015 when you and me hosted the behind-the-scenes stage for that entire convention.
Yes.
James hung out with us backstage, and he was so cool. And I had my Return of the Jedi novel that I bought at the Walden Books back in early '83, and I had him sign it. And but he's a guy we never spoke to here on the show.
I think that's what I think that's what I might be remembering. It wasn't in the novelization. So there's nothing in the novelization, the Alan Dean Foster ghost written novel, that would conclusively say that Darth Vader is not a droid, in fact, is a person underneath. Okay. So
the only thing we knew about Vader in 1977 was he was a former Jedi Knight.
Mm-hmm.
He was a former pupil of Obi-Wan Kenobi's who fell to the dark side. He fought in the Clone Wars.
Yes. He betrayed and murdered Anakin Skywalker.
Yes, he killed Luke's father.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
That's all we know about him.
Doesn't seem too droid-like, but it could be.
Well, with 3PO walking around.
Right.
Maybe. But no, he never did pull, like Dave Prowse never walked like a robot or anything.
No, never.
He always seemed, and then there's the breathing.
Yes.
Which also indicates humanity underneath the helmet and armor. So, but I mean, these are mad questions we were asking ourselves in the summer of '77 about this film and the uncertainty about it all. But like I said, there was always that kid on the playground whose older brother subscribed to Rolling Stone magazine, and he was ready to dish out the deets. All right, Jason, we got somebody else on the switchboard.
All right, who do we got?
We got somebody who wants to talk about, I don't know, caller, what's your question about? Who?
For Harrison.
Yeah.
His talk with the, shall we say, burr-headed green friend he had in the cantina scene.
Yeah.
That was the most hilarious thing I had to see with the subtitles.
That was Greedo, by the way. Greedo.
Greedo is his name.
Greedo.
Yeah, and greed is his game.
You're taking care of the intercom in the detention center.
Hilarious.
That had to be the most fantastic part. Okay, the force be with you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, boy. You know what? She understands great comic delivery and timing with his, we're all fine here now. How are you? And then Greedo. I love that Mark is just like, yeah, it's Greedo. He just wants to get right up in there. And yeah, I know these names. It's Greedo.
You're attracted to Mark's reaction. I like Harrison going, greed is his name, greed is his game.
They just seem, it's what a great time capsule because they're just on top of the world. They know that they've got a hit on their hands at this point. Yes. I don't think they don't know how big of a hit, but they know they have a hit. And it's just it's an incredible, like I say, it's a time capsule. So check it out if you're a Patreon member. All access tier. The entire interview can be listened to, and what a treasure it is. And the fact that we're kind of exclusively unearthing it here on Rebel Force Radio probably hasn't been heard since. Jim, any evidence that this has been heard since '77?
None whatsoever. All we have is the reel tape. As far as I know, I'm the first one to digitize it and make it listenable for audiences in the in this century.
Now, with May the 4th coming up, is it something that maybe they would they ever consider re-airing this on WGN?
You know what? I'm going to do what I can to float that up the flagpole. That sounds like a great idea.